Good afternoon and welcome to Nationwide. We are live on the network service of the NTA. I'm Hawa Salihu Adaman. We start from Nigeria's southeast today, where Senator Hope Uzodinma of the All Progressives Congress has assumed office as the governor of Imo State. In his inaugural speech, the governor pledged commitment to run an all-inclusive government and his drive to take the state to the next level. Over now to Chukwubike Chukwu for details.
Senator Uzodinma, who emerged winner of the Supreme Court judgment that sacked the immediate past governor of Imo State, Emeka Ihedioha, took his oath of office alongside his deputy, Professor Placid Njoku, before a teeming crowd of supporters. In his inaugural speech, the governor promised to implement programs that will have direct impact on the life of the people.
I shall put in place a busy infrastructure for enduring reconciliation among the leaders in the state. I will operate and respect the doctrine of separation of powers.
The governor was earlier received at the Simon Bakwe International Cargo Airport by various groups in Owerri. Chukwubike Chukwu, NTA News.
Namdi. And our correspondent, Miriam Vincent Oko, is on live via telephone to talk more about the new government in Imo State. Miriam, good afternoon to you. Well, it is the governor's second day in office. Can you give us an idea of how it has been at the government house in Owerri? Well, we seem to be having a little challenge with Miriam. Moving on, our next story now will be on President Muhammadu Buhari saying his administration will do everything within its powers towards addressing the socio-economic pressures inhibiting young girls in Nigeria from either enrolling in schools or completing their education. The president, while inaugurating the new head office building of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs in Abuja, described the situation as worrisome and counterproductive. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo will bring us details of that report in our subsequent bulletin. And moving on, rebuilding Nigeria should be about everyone, not just the leadership. This was the view of guests on Good Morning Nigeria while reflecting on the Nigerian situation 50 years after the Civil War. Lika Okpanachi Arua, who monitored the conversation, reports that they also drew attention to the need to focus on reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reconciliation.
50 years after the Nigerian Civil War, the consequences and pains are still fresh in the memories of those that witnessed it. The guests on Good Morning Nigeria, however, noted that despite the gaps, a lot has been achieved in several sectors.
It is in history that countries that go through wars do what? Take a leap. So we must do the needful.
The Nigeria of 1966 or 1970 is not the same as Nigeria of today. There are a lot of developmental projects which were executed.
We need to prepare ourselves and also teach the history of the Civil War to our younger people so that they could see the credibility in the teachings that we do.
The guests maintain that Nigeria cannot survive another civil war, hence the need for national cohesion, reintegration, and human capital development.
We have human resources, we have
natural resources, we have national resources. How are we able to mobilize all of this?
People who are now talking about ethnicity, about this, they were not even there. Some of us, we didn't really see the Civil War. So let us forget about it and move forward.
They appealed to Nigerians to do away with all forms of negativities that remove from the country diversity, including hate speech, and focus on how to move the country forward. In Abuja, Alika Ogbanachi, Arua, NTA News.
And still staying with our fallen heroes, joining us in the studio is the Acting Director, Defense Information, DHQ, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, to talk more on fallen heroes, welfare for their families and the veteran. You're welcome to the NTA studios.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Please educate Nigerians and the civilian population on the support structure for veterans and families of fallen heroes.
Thank you so much. I'd like to begin with the fact that having been in the military for quite some time, there must be a transition at the terminal point of one's career to return to civil life and get reintegrated to civil society. And I think that is where the support structure actually starts from for those who are retirees who are leaving the service. It begins with a training in management and vocational skill acquisition at the Armed Forces Resettlement Center to prepare them to return to civil life. The officers undergo management training where they're able to acquire managerial skills to administer small, medium scale enterprises, while the soldiers, the airmen, the ratings also build capacity to return to civil life by undergoing vocational skill acquisition preparatory to their exit.
Okay, that's a very comprehensive structure you have in place for the veterans.
Yes.
What about families of the fallen heroes?
Well, I'm not through with that of the veterans. I think I need to shed some light more on the support scheme for the veterans.
Okay.
Aside that preparation, there's also the preparation for their emoluments, or what we call it, pension and gratuity, yes, for them to exit service. Once they undergo that training, then a preparation for the gratuity and pension is arranged and they are paid to give them the financial enablement for them to return to civil life. And then there's also provision for medical attention, medical facilities for the veterans. They've been absorbed right now, as I speak, under the National Health Insurance Scheme. I think health is very important and very critical for their survival when they return to civil life. And then there is also these employment scheme under the auspices of the Corps of Commissioners. What happens here is that job opportunities are sourced for retirees, particularly in the security sector, so they could be gainfully employed after those who are interested in the security sector gainfully employed in that through that scheme. Then talking about serving personnel.
Before we go to serving personnel, I don't want us to shy away from the issue of the families of the fallen heroes, because that's very important at this time.
To us, yes.
What do you have in place to take care of this group of people?
Now, when you're talking about families of fallen heroes, you're talking about the widows and
children,
the offspring, the children. Yes. We have bodies that are in place, like women bodies that are in place.
NGOs, you mean?
Yes, they belong to the armed forces. They are not non-governmental organizations. They belong to the armed forces. We have the Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association, for instance. We have the Nigerian Army Officers' Wives Association. We have the Nigerian Navy Officers' Wives Association. We have the Nigerian Air Force Officers' Wives Association. And the main objective of these bodies is to cater for the well-being, the welfare of widows and offsprings who paid the supreme price in the course of combat and defending the nation. Such bodies, what they do is ensure that the women, that's the widows, have financial independence. And to be able to enable this, they create economic empowerment schemes where those women, those who are educated, highly educated, undergo managerial training, while those who are not too educated also could acquire vocational skills. This will enable them to be able to be financially independent and be able to survive and sustain themselves in the absence of the breadwinner.
Okay.
And then talking about the children, there is, as it stands today, there is an educational scholarship scheme for children of fallen heroes in the armed forces, all the services.
Okay.
The services undertake payments or award scholarship for the children of fallen heroes for up to 4 children from primary to the tertiary level. So I think the armed forces is doing quite enough to ensure that the widows and offsprings of fallen heroes are adequately catered for.
Okay, we hope you do more, because just yesterday we heard one of the widows complaining of not being able to pay the school fees.
They are isolated cases.
Okay.
And I want to use this opportunity, this medium, to enjoin or to urge anyone, any of them who finds herself in that kind of situation, to approach the welfare. We have welfare departments in each services, up to the division level. We have welfare departments in those services, in the services, various services, and they could approach any of these welfare departments.
Okay.
Those issues will be adequately resolved, I assure you.
All right, thank you very much. Acting Director, Defense Information, DHQ, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Moving on, it's now time for us to pause for some messages. Nationwide continues shortly. Thanks for rejoining us. It's Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. We now rejoin our correspondent, Marian Vincent Oko, who is live via telephone, to talk more about the new government in Imo State. Hello, Marian.
Hello, Howard. Thanks for joining me.
Okay. It is the governor's second day in office. Can you give us an idea of how it has been at the government house in Owerri?
Well, the second day of the new governor, Governor Hope Uzodinma in Imo State, there hasn't really been much that he has done today, except for the fact that he came into Owerri in the early hours of the afternoon at about past noon, and went straight to see the Catholic Archbishop of Owerri Archdiocese, Anthony Obinna, where they had a closed-door meeting, and from there he went straight to the government house, and where he immediately went into his office and has been able to see a few blessings. As expected, one should expect that he should be going through files and then trying to acclimatize with his new office, so there hasn't really been much that he has done today.
Okay, I know this might be early, but I'm just wondering, do you have a sense of how seriously the new government is taking the issue of investigating the last 3 administrations in the state? This is likely to be early, but I'm just wondering.
Well, not much of details have been given as to how he intends to go about the probe, which he announced yesterday during the swearing-in ceremony. He actually made it clear that he will be probing the last 3 administration, and he specifically mentioned from 2010. And the sketchy information we have is that he has directed the State Accountant General to submit the state financial record from 2010 within 4 days, and that should be counting from yesterday. So in the next 3 days, he's expected to have the records on his table. He has also instructed permanent secretaries to forward to him the status of contract awards from the various ministries in the state ministries there. So those are just the little sketchy information we have, but the details of how he intends to do that is not in the public domain for now. But with these ones, one should expect that he is hitting the ground running by trying to fight corruption in the system.
Okay, away from the government house, in generic terms, could you describe the mood in Imo State at the moment and how the change of leadership and style of service could inspire hope or not?
Okay, yesterday the mood was very moody indeed, just as the word implies. The people were very moody, but as of today, I guess they are trying to come to terms with the fact that there is a new governor who has taken over the administration of Imo State. Drive around today, we could see a few billboards of the new governor, Governor Hope Uzodinma, carrying congratulatory messages to him. And at the gate of the government house also, we saw a few women just hanging around, trying to see if they could catch a glimpse of the new governor as he comes to the office. Everybody, from what we see, they are all expecting action, though they are yet to actually come to terms with the new governor. But I guess what they're expecting is somebody who will come in and implement programs that will touch their lives. And as long as he does that, I guess everything will just move on smoothly.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for your time. Hopefully the people of Imo will get high hopes with the new government of Senator Hope Uzodinma.
Thank you, Howard.
Now, we now have the FAME report where we told you earlier that President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration will do everything within its powers towards addressing the socio-economic pressure inhibiting young girls in Nigeria from either enrolling in schools or completing their education.
Conceived in 2006 as National Children's Library and Resource Center and converted to the headquarters of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs in 2013, work on the magnificent cylindrical edifice of 6 floors was only executed in the last 1 year in furtherance of the Buhari presidency's focus on completing abandoned projects. Women in Nigeria now have a conducive environment for effective articulation of policies towards addressing their needs, as well as mainstreaming their rights, privileges, and concerns alongside children and persons with disabilities in all strata of national development. Addressing invited guests comprising women leaders and other interest groups, President Muhammadu Buhari said his administration is committed to sustaining efforts at not only ending child marriage, but also increasing access to quality all-round education, as well as enhancing the retention of the girl child in schools.
The high level number of young girls who are out of schools or unable to complete school due to socio-economic pressure is disturbing and must be addressed. It is our collective duty to ensure that mothers of today and tomorrow are educated, encouraged, and empowered. Our quest is to ensure that concerns of women, children, and other vulnerable students are given prominence and ultimately addressed.
While commending the Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Tallen, and her predecessors for the good work they have done and continue to do, the President is particularly happy with the Ministry's collaborative efforts at reducing incidents of human trafficking and maternal mortality.
I enjoin the Ministry to continue to champion and coordinate all matters relating to the plight of Nigerian women and the most vulnerable students. I assure you of my continued support and determination to see that the ministry deliver on this mandate.
There were goodwill messages by UNICEF, ministers, as well as children's representatives.
I believe that in commissioning of the new Ministry of Women's Affairs building is merely a start of a decade of advancements of human rights, and particularly the rights of women and children.
As a child, I am here to advocate for an improved protection, development, and care of all children and youth in Nigeria to prepare us to be future leaders of our dear country.
Minister of Women Affairs Pauline Tallen had earlier appreciated President Muhammadu Buhari for recognizing the role of women in nation building and supporting the completion of the head office complex of the ministry.
Supporting women is supporting the nation. God allowed you to do this because He is taking you to the next level to unfold great things that will change the history of this country.
First Lady Aisha Muhammadu Buhari was represented at the epoch-making event by a presidential aide and former Minister of Women Affairs, Dr. Hajo Sani. Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And for more reports on Nationwide, it's time to join Hingino in our Lagos Network Center. Hello, Hingino. It's your turn.
Thank you, Hawa, and welcome to Lagos. The federal government will no longer allow illegal miners sabotage the nation's economy with their nefarious activities. Minister of Mines and Steel Development Olamilekan Adegbite, during an interactive session with journalists in Lagos, said the ministry will introduce a policy before the end of first quarter to mitigate the act. Abolade Salami completes the report.
The downstream mining sector before now had suffered a neglect, thereby creating room for illegal miners to extort the nation's natural resources and export them in their raw forms. To change the narrative and revamp the sector for economic gains as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari, the ministry, with the use of data and investment in exploration, is set to de-risk the sector for foreign investors' participation. Minister of Mines and Steel Development Olamilekan Adegbite said, with the Segilola Gold Project in Osun State, Nigeria will start exporting gold by first quarter of 2021.
We've got to a point now that almost everybody in the mining industry all over the world are aware that Nigeria has minerals. Yeah, we have minerals. But the foreign investors are shy of the risk involved. What are we doing to de-risk the sector? Nigerian government is invested in exploration.
On the resuscitation of Ajaokuta Steel Company, he reaffirmed the federal government resolve to pursue the completion of the project through the $1.46 billion fund to be provided by the Russian government and Afrexim Bank.
President Muhammadu Buhari said, we can resuscitate Ajaokuta without spending the revenue that we don't have. But what's most important, we are looking at a 2.5 year gap for Nigeria to begin to produce steel.
He is optimistic that the steel company will industrialize Nigeria and create more than 10,000 jobs if it becomes operational. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Talking infrastructure now, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has assured residents that government will deliver the Oshodi-Abule-Egba BRT corridor by the end of May 2020. The governor gave the assurance when he inspected the BRT corridor along the axis. He also warned residents to desist from throwing waste into the drainage channels. Nusa Usla reports.
The 13.68 kilometers of roads is about 70% completion, and it has 14 stations. The stations have 5 bilateral stations facing both sides and 9 median stations. Governor Sanwo-Olu attributed the delay in completion on some parts of the project along the corridor to residents who throw waste into the drainage system. He advised them to desist from this wrongdoing, as perpetrators would face the full wrath of the law. On the BRT buses on the corridor, the governor maintained that his government has continued to build on the infrastructural renewal projects.
This is a major infrastructure that will not condone any form of one-way, any form of indiscriminate driving.
The governor, however, warned motorists and residents of the state to desist from wrongful driving and ensure a cleaner environment. In Lagos, Nusa Usula, NTA News.
Looking into the financial sector now, financial experts are optimistic that with prompt release of budget allocation and timely completion of capital projects, the January to December budget implementation cycle will positively impact the nation's economy. Amakao has details.
Signing of the 10.594 trillion naira 2020 budget of sustaining growth and job creation in December 2019 by President Muhammadu Buhari is seen as a move that broke the jinx of not meeting the stipulated January to December budget implementation cycle.
This year, with a budget passed, we expect that government will be able to release capital expenditure provisions in the budget promptly.
Analysts are of the view that this positive momentum should be sustained to foster economic growth.
So we're better off
not to launch 50 projects that get half completed or we can't finish the appropriations. We're better off to launch 20 or 25 projects where the appropriations come in a timely fashion, that the contractors involved are doing their work, that there's outcomes that are measured and they get completed on time.
With the largest allocation to works and housing sectors, analysts say the signing of the 2020 finance bill along other initiatives will create avenues to fund the 2020 budget.
Fortunately for the government, we are witnessing an oil price windfall, and I hope we will make optimum use of that windfall. So for the government, they've gotten what we call a tailwind that is actually pushing them forward in terms of implementing of the budget.
Nigeria is said to be the largest potential market in the world. This, analysts say, makes it pertinent to redouble investment opportunities in year 2020. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
That's it from here. It's now back to Hawa in Abuja for more on Nationwide.
Many thanks, Hingino. And moving on, in 2019, the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, agreed to adopt a new shared currency, the ECO. Creating a successful one would, however, require member countries to overcome serious challenges. There are essentially 15 convergence criteria for ECOWAS countries to adopt the ECO, and by the end of 2019, only 5 member states had met these conditions. Member states have been meeting over some of these issues, and I have in the studio a former Director General of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Chijoke Ekechukwu. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Okay. How feasible are the chances of all 15 countries meeting this criteria?
It is feasible and also possible. Recall that the issue of ECO being a common currency for West African countries has been on the pipeline for many years. Many times when you have change of governments in some of these countries, some of these criteria may start all over again. These are countries with different GDP sizes, different inflation rates, different economic conditions. And so it is feasible for them to meet. But whether they will meet the timing within the given time allowed for them to meet them is a different thing altogether. But over time, I know they will meet the conditions.
Okay, let's come back home. I'm just wondering, considering the fact that Nigeria accounts for nearly 67% of the bloc's total GDP, and with the largest market, how do we stand to gain from a single currency market where there would be likely arbitrary tariff and non-tariff barriers not in our favor?
Nigeria is going to benefit a lot.
Okay.
Nigeria is a trading country. A lot of what we do involves importation and exportation also. What this will do for us is just to remove all the barriers. So many times we go to some of these countries to sell or to buy, and we go through the process of having foreign currency changes, exchange rates, the differences. And this is going to actually throw the market open for buying and selling. And because we have a large economic size, it is easy for us to decide to export all we have from one country to another within the monetary zone of ECOWAS. So the benefits actually outweigh whatever demerits that may be there. But I'm thinking, I'm very hopeful that Nigeria, as well as other West African countries, are going to benefit from this, because it's actually going to integrate West African countries. It's going to free all the hurdles that we used to encounter doing businesses with West African countries. So while they are benefiting from it, we are also going to benefit from it.
I think the concern for many has to do with the fact that if you use the Eurozone experience as a model to show how unruly currency unions can be, are you very optimistic and encouraged to think that the ECO ultimately will work?
Yes, it has worked for Euro. What it does for what a common currency does for a people is the fact that it reduces the shock any particular economy is going to have when there is an economic issue within that particular country. It reduces the shock. You know, instead of you having a very serious devaluation of your currency, automatically, you're not going to have that because you are not the only person carrying that particular currency. So it's going to help you in absorbing a shock of such recession when it happens to any particular country.
Okay,
yeah,
that's encouraging.
Yeah, sure.
That will be all for now. Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and our Just Network Center is next on our lineup. Felicia is our guide.
Thank you, Hawa. Welcome to JOS. The 3-division Nigerian Army JOS says it is strengthening collaboration with the civilian populace towards achieving more lasting peace in Plateau State. This came to fore at a reception organized by the division as part of activities marking the Armed Forces Remembrance Day in JOS. Kim Godds has the details.
The reception played host to the state governor, Simon Lalong, other top military officers and senior government officials. To the division, as expressed in the words of the general officer commanding, the military has been enjoying a cordial relationship with civilians, especially with the host communities, a gesture that should be sustained until lasting peace returns to Plateau State.
If there is any state that has committed as much men for the unity of this country, I believe Plateau State is probably ranking one. And because of this, we from 3 Division, we feel that we are very much part of this community.
The GOC described Governor Lalong as a very loyal and supportive governor who treats security issues with every sense of priority, prompted the state's #1 citizen to further express his desire and commitment to continue to drive the state until peace is achieved.
How long can we continue to rely on the army? What about those civilians? What are we doing to make sure we have peace? So if we want the army to rest, we should avoid trouble. And that's the way, one way to help the armed forces. So I want to thank all of you for the wonderful thing you have done in this country, and especially to Plateau State.
The resolve is for increased civil-military relation as critical to sustainable peace in the state. In JOS, Kim Godds, NTA News.
Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong has expressed satisfaction with the ongoing road rehabilitation within the Jos and Bukuru metropolis, which he says has brought relief to citizens of the state. The governor gave this indication when he embarked on an inspection of roads and other projects. Priscilla Grumnan reports.
The roads inspected by the governor are the Layin Zana, Congo Junction, Duse Uku, and Etobaba, all within Jos North, as well as the Rayfield, Zarmaganda, and Sparkling Junction roads in Jos South local government area. This chair by residents is an indication of the direct impact the rehabilitation work has on them, as Governor Lalong reiterates his administration's commitment to do more for people of the state, which will in turn boost their socio-economic life.
I am here to reaffirm our commitment to all of you.
Yes, sir.
And to also say that peace is very cardinal in Plateau State.
Yes, sir.
Peace is cardinal in Nigeria.
Community leader of Nabor Gong, Etobaba Sani Awari, and leader of the Hausa community in Jos North, Abdul Kadir Garba, appreciated the governor for the initiative, which they said has brought relief and ease of movement to the people. The governor also inspected the progress of work at the new High Court complex. Similarly, Governor Lalong inspected the construction of security outposts for Operation Rainbow situated at Duse Uku in Jos North, which the governor says will enhance intelligence gathering and bring about prompt response during security situations. In Jos, Priscilla Grumnan, NTA News.
Hawa, Jos is done. It's back to you in Abuja for more on Nationwide.
Very well, Felicia. To diplomatic matters now, Nigeria's reiterated call for global peace, security and the development of humanity. At a briefing, Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema informed the diplomatic community that Nigeria believes that diplomacy and high level of decorum are the viable options for resolution of disputes. This is coming at a time when the United Nations is calling for de-escalation of tension between the United States and Iran. Usman Aliyu has more.
With a moderately large network of diplomatic missions in more than 100 countries, Nigeria has significant influence in Africa and in various multilateral fora. This briefing by Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs is all about reminding the diplomatic community about the country's foreign policy objectives, her interests and her stand on some unfolding events in the world. Nigeria says her support to the United Nations on global peace still stands, saying diplomacy is the option for any dispute rather than the use of force. Nigeria also assures the diplomats of her efforts on improving internal security, fighting terrorism, as well as opening up opportunities for relations on economic growth and development.
We are also victims of the catastrophic effect of climate change and are therefore fully engaged with global climate action. Lake Chad, which was a source of livelihood for almost 30 million people, has shrunk by about 90%. And a possible solution, of course, to that real catastrophe would be to recharge it from the Obangi River, which flows from the Central African Republic through the two Congos into the Atlantic.
Looking at the vision of Africa on the project Silencing the Gun in 2063, the Foreign Affairs Minister called on the United Nations to enforce reforms to include at least 3 African countries on Security Council. In Abuja, Usman Aliyu, NTA News.
And Jenny in Port Harcourt is next on our lineup on Nationwide. Hello, Jenny. You're on.
Thank you, Hawa, and welcome to Port Harcourt. The challenges thrown up by the legionnaires and spouses of the fallen heroes were not lost on Governor Nyesom Wike as he announced a donation of 100 million naira for the scholarship of children of the fallen heroes. This is to ease the financial burden faced by the families of the fallen heroes. Ogedi Nyekwere reports that Governor Nyesom Wike made the promise during the commemoration of the 2020 Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
That was the 21-gun salute and the sound of the bugle in honor of the departed heroes, marking the 2020 Armed Forces Day celebration. The colorful celebration put together January 15th every year is in remembrance of the efforts and contributions of members of the Nigerian Armed Forces who fought and are still fighting to secure the territorial integrity of the nation and other peacekeeping missions. Governor Nyesom Wike led top government functionaries and service commanders, chairman of the Nigerian Legion and chairman River State Council of Traditional Rulers to lay wreath on the cenotaph of unknown soldiers at Isaac Borough Park. He regretted that adequate attention is not paid to the families of the fallen heroes, a situation he said is unacceptable.
As a government, we will continue to give material support to the military, the state chapter of the Nigerian Legion, as well as the families of all our fallen heroes. Apart from supporting the establishment of the trust fund, the state government commits 100 million naira for the scholarship of the children of fallen heroes.
We appeal for your financial support to our pilot scholarship scheme as to enable sustenance of the children of our fallen heroes in schools.
The governor also directed the secretary to the state government to work out modalities for the state government to support the Nigerian legions of River State origin who paid the ultimate price. In Port Harcourt, Ogedi, NTA News.
Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, PACA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency, has held a one-day public enlightenment program against the menace of corruption in Nigeria. Participants identified tribalism in public sector, poverty and disunity as factors encouraging corruption in the country. Robinson Darataide has details.
It was an interactive seminar coined from the theme Value Reorientation and the Fight Against Corruption. Participants harped on the need for individuals to imbibe the habit of discipline, while government address issues of economic loopholes, lopsided appointments, and create employment opportunities as ways of reducing corruption in the country.
A system that monitors what you are supposed to achieve. Are you achieving it? And if you are not achieving it, the system shouldn't fund you.
You cannot execute any corrupt act successfully before done after without the collaboration of professionals. And yet, each of them says we have code of conduct.
That all of us become keen participants in the fight against corruption.
The fight against corruption must be fought only and only within the ambits of the law.
Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption was established in August 2015 to complement other anti-corruption agencies in rooting out corruption in Nigeria. In Port Harcourt, Robinson Teratede, NTA News.
And that's it from Port Harcourt. It's now back to you, Haba, in Abuja.
Many thanks to you, Jenny. And guests on NTA's Current Affairs program, Moment for Thought, are advocating developmental journalism and building a stronger Nigeria. They frowned at unethical practices such as fake news, which do not add any value to the profession.
Handset, can broadcast information to millions of people. There is beauty in that, there is danger in that.
Everybody seems able to jump on the bandwagon. But then, my people say you don't burn down a house because there's a rat in it. How do you catch the rat? And catching the rat is largely the business of regular television.
The program comes up tonight at 12 midnight on the network service of the NTA. And it's time to join Abubakar in our Maiduguri Network Center for more reports. Hello, Abubakar.
Hello, Hawa, and thank you for joining us in Maiduguri. Improved welfare for living heroes and widows of passed-away officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces has been described as the best way to honor their supreme sacrifices in protecting sovereignty of the nation. Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, represented by the Deputy Governor, made this assertion at the 2020 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration, marked in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Naomi Aboku reports.
In the last 10 years of insurgency bedeviling the Northeast, the Nigerian military has recorded great successes in the fight against terrorism that would require celebrating the gallantry troops and those who passed away. The need for government and corporate organizations to assist families of fallen heroes was emphasized, as well as those permanently crippled fighting the war against terrorism, considering the increased number of soldiers affected in the course of the fight.
This administration is fully aware and appreciates the difficulties in which the ex-servicemen and their dependents found themselves, and wish to assure you that government will continue to assist and give every necessary support.
Patrol vehicles donated by the Imo State government were commissioned, and a medical outreach was organized for ex-servicemen as well as widows of the fallen heroes by Defense Health Maintenance Limited as part of activities to mark the day. To the people and government of Imo State, this year's Armed Forces Remembrance Day is worthy of celebrating, considering the significant peace presently enjoyed across the Northeast by efforts of troops of the Nigerian military in the front line in Maiduguri. Naomi Aboku, NTA News.
981 persons hitherto suspected to be having link with Boko Haram insurgents have been reunited with their families after undergoing 7 weeks of rehabilitation by Borno State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. The report.
Allah ne ya ceto ni kuma ya ceto mu dukkanmu da muke nan. Duk abu da ya kasance wannan le baka da baki
Hussaini Bello, a secondary school leaver who hails from our local government area of Borno State, is among the 981 persons handed over to the state government by the Nigerian Army in 2019 for onward reintegration into the society. Addressing the 981 persons, comprising both males and females, Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Zuwaira Gambo, said the victims have been fully rehabilitated as they have undergone series of psychosocial support and counseling towards ensuring that they are physically and mentally fit to be reunited with their families.
All the necessary procedures have been followed, and we're happy that they are living as better human beings than when they came in. And that, I think, we should be grateful to His Excellency the Governor of Borno State, who provided their feeding, clothing, and other supports.
Borno State Governor, represented by Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Barrister Kakashe Ulawan, told the cleared suspects that their apprehension was not meant to dehumanize anyone, but to assist in checking the excesses of members of Boko Haram. Some of the released persons from neighboring states and countries, while thanking government and concerned individuals for intervening in granting them freedom, prayed against being victims of circumstances in future. And that concludes Nationwide from Maiduguri, Hawa.